Alright. First and foremost, some are aware that yesterday I was a highly valued and respected member of the jury. And some are wondering how it went. Did I become the long arm of the law and cleanse the streets of filth? You know, it's funny. I was giving live updates on Twitter. I felt like a journalist, man. And my day went a little something like this. I drive to the courthouse. They have no parking, so I have to find some spot around the block, and I need not fear a parking ticket because I am in Dorchester, appropriately named Deathchester. I walk into the courthouse, check in, sit down, and observe the other jurors who arrived before me. Every nigga here looks like they knew exactly where they were when the US pulled out of Vietnam. I'm telling you, I was the youngest there by a fucking century. An officer walks in, collects the papers we needed to fill out, smiles, and says we'll be in this room a long time. He then leaves and locks the door. The day becomes irreparably bad, however, when two particular other jurors surround me. One sat next to me. We shall call him Sniffles because he wouldn't stop fucking sniffling and coughing. So naturally, we call the other one who fell asleep behind me and started snoring a bitch. This goes on for about 3 hours until our enslaver temporarily granted us freedom for sustenance. I grabbed Duncan. I ain't had Duncan in a long time before this. I walk back into the room only to find the Sniffler and the bitch awaiting my arrival to continue our dynamic relationship from earlier. Another 2 hours passes and the officer finally returns and says it. He says a trial is ready and the impanelment will begin, so everyone should grab their belongings because we're headed to the courtroom. He then leaves. About another 15 minutes goes by and he returns. He tells us all to rise, but because I hated him, I refused. But then I saw the judge walk in soon after, so I stood up. The judge tells us all to then have a seat, and point blank tells us, despite the fact that the pre-trial was all set up and the jurors were ready to be chosen, the fucking witness to the crime fled the courthouse, so they had to cancel everything, and we were now free to leave. So again, I don't know what sort of giga-nigga villain they almost pitted me up against that sent brainwaves through the space-time continuum to intimidate the witness into fleeing last second, but that's now someone else's problem. Our problem is discussing how the Traveler saved Hu Tao during the Lantern Rites, and the answer is quite simple. He's a descender. You know, Lantern Rite this patch was interesting. The story was just sort of Hoyo taking another stab at Natlan's Archon quest. I mean, in both instances, a crisis relating to the ley lines occurred, so the ley lines needed to be fixed. Although for, different reasons, death was required. Just when things looked grim, an Outlander would then show up and use their status as an Outlander to accept the punishment, or I should say, necessity of death. Look, the skinny of what happened here was something caused the ley lines to go haywire. What caused it? We don't know. And after the quest, we still don't know. It's a complete mystery. Although Ninguang brought up the disaster that occurred in Wuwang Hill 10 years ago, Hu Tao shot that down. The current problem with the ley lines is that death is encroaching upon the living world, which is causing certain people to become ill. To fix the ley lines, an old ritual from the past needed to be done at several gates around Liyue. This art is called the 7 and 8 Gates Array and originates from the Archon War. You see, once long ago, there was a god who took the form of a tree named Tao Duo. Behind this god was said to be the realm of the dead. Due to the unrest of the Archon War, the boundary between life and death blurred, causing souls to leak from the ley lines. In essence, death was encroaching upon the living. So 8 adepts came forward and purified Tao Du in the sanctification of Tawadua, cleansing the god, which caused its remains to sink into the ley lines, thus becoming the border between life and death. However, it's called the 7 and 8 Gates method because one of the gates, the Gate of Death, sees one obfuscate themselves from the ley line, which just means they get erased from it forever. But, the upside is they also erase the evil that they take with them. Fast forward to today, and something inexplicable happened to the border. Hu Tao likened the border to an old house, often needing repairs, as sometimes fetor can leak. It's up to the funeral parlor to provide these repairs. However, this most recent incident, she likened to the entire world being turned upside down. It's far worse than anything that's happened in the past. So, this calls for the old 7-8 gate method array ritual to once again be called on, with Hu Tao of course taking the Gate of Death. She says her goodbyes and we link up with Zhongli at the time of the ritual, who cryptically tells us, and with no sense of urgency, we can't connect to the ley lines. What does that imply, bro? Imagine this nigga's a doctor, bro. You have AIDS. What does that imply? That I'm dying? No, that you're dead! Anyway, long story short, the Traveler isn't from Teyvat, so there's no memories of him stuttering ass nigga. There's no memories of the Traveler in the ley lines of Teyvat, so him being erased doesn't really matter. So, he takes the punishment, somehow.
看来时辰已到啊！无量昏寿，无常终时，往生诸业，视为身业。快看！ 明年的海灯节，要是有蝴蝶飞来，那就是我回来看大家了。旅行者，你
放心，我可以的。来吧，大家都在等着你回家。
Anyway, it's then we get this scene from Ninguaangs speculating on the cause of this incident, wondering if Natlan and the Night Kingdom had anything to do with it, given what they went through recently, and the answer should categorically just be no, right? I mean, the whole point of the Night Kingdom, and the sole reason the captain hyper-focused on Natlan's ley lines in specific as it pertained to his plans, was because they aren't connected to the rest of Teyvat.
But at one point in time, Natlan's ley lines were decimated. Even after reconstruction, the rules needed for the Ode of Resurrection made it impossible to reconnect the ley lines to other nations. That unique quality is precisely what drew the captain to Natlan.
Did he try the same thing in other nations?
Yes, but all those attempts ended in failure.
So anything that did happen to the Night Kingdom shouldn't really affect the rest of Teyvat's ley lines, but I'm no Dr. Leyline aficionado, so what do I know?